Hey, what is going on guys? RZ Stealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Wukong mid lane and why he's become one of the strongest, if not the strongest AD assassin that you can play for this patch. Wukong mid lane has always been a pick, at least for the past few months, that's done very well in solo queue. However, his pick rate has always been very low. It's not until these last few patches here until people have started to realize how strong the pick is in the mid lane and the potential that it does have. Even pro players in this patch are starting to play him more in solo queue now, and Caps even pulled Wukong mid out in the LCS. So we're going to start off here by taking a look at why Wukong mid is a really good pick in this patch, and then after that we'll transition into taking a look at the build and runes and take a look at how you should be playing Wukong in the mid lane. So the first reason to why Wukong can succeed in the mid lane is because his matchups are actually really good, and they're a lot better than if you were playing top lane Wukong. If you're playing top lane Wukong and you're going up against a tank in lane, or you're going up against another bruiser, you don't have a ton of kill pressure in those lanes. Whereas if you're playing Wukong mid lane and you're going up against another assassin, or you're going up against a squishy mage, you just have a ton more kill pressure in the mid lane. Once you do it 6 as Wukong, you've got a really good all-in against these squishy mid lane champions, and you can get a much better snowball going with mid lane Wukong due to the fact that you just have a ton more kill pressure with him in the mid lane. So to elaborate a little bit more on Wukong's matchups in the mid lane, he does really well into most other assassins. Wukong's W is a great counter to picks like Zed, Yasuo, because for example, if you're going up against a Zed, you always save your W for when Zed uses his ultimate on you, and if Zed does not use his ultimate on you, then a lot of the time you're just going to be able to burst him out. So you save your W for when Zed ults, you W right away, and then Zed just can't get any extra damage off and get any extra damage for his death mark. So it's a really nice matchup for Wukong if you can play it well. If you're up against a Yasuo too, you can use your W to dodge his tornado. So as long as you do play these lanes correctly as Wukong, you can do a really good job at countering other assassins. And if you're playing Wukong into an AP mage who is skill shot reliant, you can use your E to dodge out on their skill shot. So for example, if you're playing against a Lux and she tries to throw her E out to poke you, you can E forward onto her to dodge her E, and you can win the trade pretty much every single time. So a lot of Wukong's matchups in the mid lane right now, he's either going to win them really hard or he's going to at least go even. If you're in a lane to where you're just not too sure if you're going to be able to do a ton in the laning phase, just farm up, get to that level 6, and you can all in pretty much any other champion in the game. Now, a few matchups that Wukong does struggle with a little bit though in the mid lane are champions that do have very easy CC abilities that can lock you down when you do try to jump in on them. So Anivia with her Q can do pretty well if you're trying to jump in on her. Malzahar, once he does hit level 6, can lock you down really easily. Ari with her charm can do very well at locking you down if you try to jump in. Vladimir is just kind of a annoying matchup because he's got his pool, so you're not gonna have a ton of kill pressure in that lane. And then Morgana is also a pick that can do pretty well because if you try to jump in, then she can just bind you and lock you down. So that's also a little bit of a harder matchup. So the Wukong pick in the mid lane is kind of similar to Talon once you do hit level 6 because his roaming potential is actually really good. You're going to want to rush the Tiamat on Wukong. Your Tiamat with your E is going to one-shot the wave very easily, so you can shove in with Wukong, you can look for roams. When you R6 as Wukong, your roams are really good, you're all in. If you're ganking bot lane, is super good with your ultimate, so you should be rushing that Tiamat. Look to be active around the map with Wukong. A lot of players are also going for Moby boots right after the Tiamat so they can just keep roaming around the map, keep influencing the map, and you can do a really good job at just snowballing your lane as well as other lanes with Wukong mid. Wukong's trading pattern is also really nice for the mid lane because mid laners are going to be a lot squishier than in the top lane. So if you can get a few EQ combos off, like 1 or 2 EQ combos off on the enemy mid laner, and then you use your W right after that, it's going to be very hard for the enemy mid laner to actually trade back against you. Your EQ is just such an instant combo, and if you use your W right after that, then you're going to be able to walk away. You're going to win most trades, and if you can just keep using that trade pattern pattern over and over again, you're eventually going to chunk them out enough so that you can look for an all-in with the ignite. Wukong mid is also a lot safer than Wukong top lane because mid lane is a much shorter lane, and with Wukong's W, it's actually very hard to gank him in the early game. If you do gank him, he's just going to use his W, walk away, and because mid lane is very short, it's going to be very easy for Wukong to just avoid a lot of ganks in the early game, so it does make him a little bit of a less risky pick than in the top lane. And I think another big reason to why Wukong mid succeeds a lot is because he's actually a very hard champion to mess up with, especially if you do get a lead. Wukong's all-in combo is very straightforward, it's very linear, you're just gonna do the same thing pretty much every single time, EQ in, use your ultimate, and you're gonna be able to one-shot with that combo if you're ahead, so it's just a very easy combo to use, and if you do get a snowball going with Wukong, then your ability to just continuously one-shot and put out damage in team fights is a lot better than other assassins. Other assassins like Zed, Yasuo, their burst damage isn't as consistent, so it just makes Wukong a little bit more of a consistent pick in the mid lane than some of those other assassins. So for your build on Wukong mid lane here, for your starting items, you're going to want to change it up depending on the lane. If you're in a harder lane, if you think you're going to get poked out a little bit, then you can go for Corrupting Potion. If you think you do have kill pressure in the first few levels, then you can go for either Longsword or Dorian's Blade. It just kind of depends on how experienced you are on Wukong. If you're not really sure on how the lane goes, then I would just start Corrupting Potion to give yourself a bit more sustain in the lane. For your first item, you're going to want to rush a Tiamat. The Tiamat is going to help you a lot there with just clearing the wave out and getting active on the map and looking for roams. Moby Boots is going to be what you want to pick up for your second item after you grab the Tiamat. And then for your first full item on Wukong, you're going to want to grab a Youmuu's a lot of the time. That's what most pro players are going right now on their Wukong mid lane. For your second item, you can either go for Stormrazor or Duskblade. Both are really good second options on Wukong. Some pros go Stormrazor, some pros go Duskblade, but whichever one you don't pick up second, grab third on Wukong. You can go for Black Cleaver as your third item if you do want a bit more survivability. It's also a really nice item on Wukong because it does have nice synergy there. With his ultimate, you can just proc the armor shred really fast, but Wukong mid lane, you want to be playing him for the one shot, so you want to be building as much damage as possible. So most players that do play Wukong mid lane, they don't go for Black Cleaver third, they usually go Black Cleaver fourth or fifth item, and then they also usually do grab a Guardian Angel in there. You can either grab a GA fourth or fifth, just depending on how the game is going. If you're in a very close game and you feel like the Guardian Angel can really make a difference in a team fight, then you can go that before Black Cleaver. But if you're snowballing really hard, if you just want more damage, then grabbing Black Cleaver before the Guardian Angel would be the option. And then for your runes on Wukong, Electrocute is going to be your keystone. Grab Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collector, and then Ravenous Hunter or Relentless Hunter, depending on which one you do like better. For your secondary runes on Wukong, grabbing Absolute Focus and Scorch is what most pros are doing in this patch. Absolute Focus there is just really good on Wukong because when you are diving in with him, you are going to be full HP, so it is going to add a little bit more damage there to your full burst combo. Now for the ability maxing on Wukong in this patch, you're going to want to start your E first, either your W or your Q second, depending on the lane. If you do think you're going to get level 2 ganked, then take your W second, but if not, then you can take your Q second. Now for the first ability max, you can go for a Q max now on this patch in Wukong. E max is still a fine option, and that is still the one that most players are going for, but Q max does have the better win percent now on Wukong in this patch after his E did get nerfed. The E max on Wukong also isn't all that necessary because you're going for a Tiamat rush a lot of the time, so you don't really need the extra wave clear there with your E. And if you do max your Q out first, it is going to add for more damage to your full burst combo. You're going to be getting 30% armor shred at max rank there on your Q with Wukong, so your burst damage is going to be super good once you do get that maxed out. And then Qmax is also better because it does have a shorter cooldown when you rank it up, whereas with your E, it stays at a set cooldown of 8 seconds at all ranks. And then you're also not benefiting a ton from the extra attack speed you get from leveling up the E on Wukong. You're an assassin champion, so the amount of auto attacks that you get off and the benefit that you'll get from that bonus attack speed isn't really going to be as beneficial than if you were to max your Q out first and get the bonus armor shred. So that is going to be all for this video, guys. Hopefully it did give you some pretty good information and you now have a pretty good idea as to why Wukong mid lane is having a lot of success right now in solo queue. If you guys did enjoy this video, then be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.